Steve, Christine, over to you guys.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Steve Johnston. I am the senior producer for streaming and platforms for CBC Sports. We're going to talk a little bit about enhancing accessibility and using generative AI for real-time closed captioning at the Olympic Games Paris 2024 and for the Paralympic Games.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Boyd, and I work with the CBC's Transformation Office, including on several projects to boost the accessibility of CBC content. So that's to meet our commitments in the CBC's National Accessibility Plan. So I joined Steve and the rest of the CBC team on this experiment we're sharing with you today. Audrey, can you flip to the next slide, please? Thank you. So you can see from the agenda, we're going to outline some of the obstacles, some of the opportunities we found. We'll tell you how we ran the experiment. Then we're going to take you behind the scenes to share some of the biggest challenges, and there were a few. Then we'll let you in on our scorecard, how we did. And finally, Steve here will share the big picture, what we learned and what comes next.
Thanks, Christine. As we said, obstacles and opportunities. Well, providing accessible content for Canadians is one of our core pillars at CBC Sports, and we've been dedicated to exploring new tools and workflows to accomplish this. As Boris mentioned earlier, we provided ASL interpretation for digital streams of the opening and closing ceremonies, as well as for daily video updates produced throughout the Paris Games. Now, for previous games, and in this case, I'm speaking about the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics and the Tokyo Olympics in 2021, we employed a captioning service operated by standard issue human beings. We had the capacity to apply this service to one event per day, forcing us to be judicious about what digital streams we chose. Now, the rationale behind this selection process was to handpick a single daily event with an eye on public interest, while also attempting to provide a diverse array of sports. For the Paris Olympics, we were presented with an opportunity to make use of a new AI-powered captioning tool that could be allocated to one of our streaming encoders, allowing us to go from one event per day to up to 4. Now, not to get too into the weeds, but during Olympics, English services of CBC makes use of 14 encoders to stream as many Olympic events as possible, which can be as many as 50 per day. One encoder represents a single access point to the internet, which would mean we could do multiple events per day in this workflow, but no concurrent events, just one at a time. Now, while picking an assortment of streamed events was good for an audience with an assortment of tastes, it also made sense to have a wide array of sports to put the captioning system through its paces. Auto captioning is not a very new technology, but the issue that sports faces, capital S and lowercase s sports, besides the fast-paced live aspect of it, is the Olympics isn't about the so-called Big Five sports. I mean, they're in there, but these are more niche events with particular terms of vocabulary for each. Track and field alone is tricky enough. Now, fortunately, the Olympics features some early preliminary events that take place before the opening ceremony. And these early soccer and rugby matches provided a great opportunity to kick the tires on lower stakes streams of limited interest until we could satisfy ourselves that it would be a good user experience. In total, across 31 days of the Olympics and Paralympics, we captioned 74 digital streams for almost 226 hours of streamed events, including beach volleyball, para-athletics, swimming, equestrianism, wrestling, BMX, gymnastics, and rugby. And my colleague, the knowledgeable and multi-talented, multi-hyphenate Christine Boyd, will explain how it went.
Thank you, Steve. So to get into the nitty-gritty, we did this experiment with a live automated captioning tool that uses generative AI, or Gen AI for those in the know. So anytime we use Gen AI at the CBC, we feel it's really important to have human oversight and safeguards. And that's because any automated system can make mistakes, but Gen AI has been known to just make things up. So our first safeguard was advanced testing, like Steve mentioned, on low profile or lower profile, low risk events. Second, we knew one of the biggest challenges is always proper names. And the Olympics and the Paralympics pose an Olympian-sized challenge. So no other event has such a wide variety of names, or as many. So we decided we'd go the extra mile or kilometer, because we're Canadian after all. So for every event captioned, we gave the captioning tool lists of spelling of all athletes' names and, when possible, pronunciations. And we made these custom dictionaries for about 92% of captioned Olympic events and all but 3 of the Paralympic ones. I know, thank you. Our third safeguard was spot checks. So we deployed 2 intrepid spot checkers. I was one of them. And we randomly tuned in to a 10-minute chunk of about 20 different events and checked the spelling of every single athlete's name. Our fourth safeguard, well, we had a clear disclaimer for the public, post it with the captioning, disclosing that we used AI. We also kept a very close eye on feedback from you, the audience. And our final safeguard, once the games were over, we did rigorous testing on the overall quality of the captioning. All right. Next slide, please. Thank you. So how'd it go? Well, I'm not going to lie. There were some scheduling and technical glitches. For example, once or twice, we sent the captioning tool the feed from the wrong microphone. Oops, or the wrong event entirely. But that kind of confusion could happen with humans too, but a human captioner might catch the mistake quicker. A much bigger challenge was ambient sound. We noticed that sometimes when our commentators paused, the captioning tool picked up words from the venue, pardon me, from the venue announcers or from the crowd. So again, this seems like a challenge more easily detected by humans. And then the biggest challenge, the misspelled names. We noticed the captioning tool sometimes struggled with names that really closely sounded like other words, like you can see on this slide. For example, there was an Israeli soccer player whose family name was Madmon, Madmon, but the tool transcribed it as madman, as in mental illness. Diamande became diamond, like the precious gem. Chameleon became chameleon. And the Spanish name Gil was transcribed as heel, like health, heel, like foot, and heel, like he will. Another challenge around name order, when Spain played China in the women's basketball, the captioning tool made a lot more errors with the Chinese names. For example, the Chinese basketball star Yuru Li, who you see in this slide, shown here leaping for the ball, she was listed in our custom dictionary as though her given name was Yuru and her surname Li. But the commentators kept calling her by the surname Yuru, and it turned out we had it backwards. In China, Japan, and some other Asian countries, as you may know, the family name is usually written first, followed by a given name. So that was our error, not the tools. And it could have as easily, confused a human. But it was another lesson learned that might change how we instruct a similar tool in the future. So next slide, what were the results? Thank you. Well, as Steve said, we quadrupled the number of live events that we were able to offer with this automated captioning in the last.
I think I've frozen up. I can't hear anything, but I'm just going to soldier on in.
Oh, have we lost audio?
I can hear you now.
So we quadrupled the numbers of caption live streams to 74. The captioning tool was twice as fast, getting results on screen. So we've had past feedback complaining lag time can be an issue in live programming. The average lag time with human captioning is about 6 seconds. And the captioning tool's lag time was half that, so 3 seconds. Another huge win was quality. Both the company behind the captioning tool and the CBC conducted detailed testing to score the accuracy. So we used a model called NER, which scores out of 100, and it emphasizes meaning. So it weighs errors based on how they affect comprehension. Closed captioning for live programming on TV has to meet or beat an NER score of 98 out of 100. So even though we don't have to meet the same standards for web live streams, at least not yet, we aim for the same. We tested 6 transcripts, and 5 out of 6 surpassed that 98 threshold. The only one that didn't scored 97.3. So our tester was amazed. She's been doing this a long time. She said the accuracy of the automated results was light years ahead of what she'd see a few years ago. And a final measure of how we did, and that was from you, dear audience, we had 0, you heard me, 0 complaints about the quality of the transcripts. In fact, it was the opposite. We only had feedback that you want it more.
All right, conclusions and takeaways. I'm going to speed up a little bit so we can make up some time. We consider this approach to be a success, and the plan had at least been implied that if things worked well, we would consider exploring a wider rollout of the technology. However, there's something of a twist ending to this story. We have now been flooded with a number of other options when it comes to AI captions. There's an IP-based virtual captioning tool that we expect to be testing this year, along with a new tool built into our content management system, as well as rumblings from this year's CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, of new video players with onboard multi-language auto captioning that aren't even cloud-based. Along all steps of the creative process, from production to delivery, our toolkit grows. That means the content can arrive for distribution already captioned before it's sent out to the world, and provides early hints that video players in general will be able to handle captioning with industry-level reliability. With deepest appreciation to our captioner colleagues who toil away at providing accurate captions and reliable text to accompany live events, I love the idea of having captioning be a steady stream of metadata that we can turn on or off like a tap. Because nobody is rooting for AI to come with ways to take over human jobs, but if there's a need not being met because of a lack of capacity, work otherwise not being done, this is where technology can score big wins. It is also exciting to see the rapid progression in the reliability and versatility of automated captioning tools. In just a few short years, the progress is impressive. And as an added bonus, we have the chance to enrich the wider broadcasting community by providing hours of content for captioning language models and continue to elevate the state of the art. And with wins for our audience experience, advancements in our tech infrastructure, and possibly for industry as a whole, this is an accessibility hat trick that we look forward to pursuing again for the Milano Cortina Games in 2026 and beyond.